Welcome back, I'm Cynic and I find the coziest games on the internet. Today is Brickochet, which while this game came out in 2017, it's basically a remake of a game from the 90s that I used to play called DX-Ball and DX-Ball 2. So I enjoy this game. It's kind of like Arkanoid, right? It's one of those, just a brick breaker game. Real quick, let's just show you the controls. So these are the different power-ups that you can get during the game. Most of them are fairly self-explanatory, like bigger, this one breaks down bricks to their final form. We'll kind of explain them as we go, but you can see what the bad ones are and what the good ones are just by coming into this escape screen, which is helpful. But these shiny bricks, those are explosive bricks. And I have spent way too many hours on this between, the 90s and now. It's one of those games that, I go back to if I'm not feeling well, right? Like if I'm hurting in the nighttime, I have sickness, sometimes I hurt. And so I can't sleep, And so when I tuck my family into bed, I sometimes play a game like this. It's just one of those games that I enjoy playing. It takes my mind off of things. It's just kind of nostalgic, kind of fun. So, this one, you'll see those kind of white bricks. You have to hit them 3 times to get rid of them. And then the gray bricks, you have to hit them like twice to get rid of them, right? And so you have to kind of chip away to get towards things. But if you can hit them with an explosive brick, you'll take them out in one. Ooh, now this is a cool power-up. This is like guns, right? And so you can just shoot your guns all you want, and you can split the ball in 2. You can even make the ball be a fireball. Ooh, I made the ball tiny. That's not going to be easy, but alright, I'm losing track of the ball because of all the guns. It's a little hard to keep track of the ball when you get the guns going, especially when your ball is the same color as the guns. This one would increase explosive bricks if there were still any explosive bricks left, but I finished that. Alright. And man, as a kid, this game was so hard not to die on. But you also have to remember that we had these crappy little mice that had like, the ball that would roll underneath of them. The laser mouse is just, the optical laser mouse, right, is so much better. Works oodles better. It's more accurate. You can get one with a high DPI. I love it. But, didn't stop me from playing this game in the 90s. I haven't tried the cheat codes on this one, but in the 90s you could hit like, I think Control F1 through Control F whatever to get a bunch of power-ups like gun. Let me see. So if I hit Control F1, Control F2, no? Doesn't look like it. So it doesn't look like they kept the old cheat codes in there. Which is probably wise, because I would cheat with those a lot. So that red one that just went down there, it is a tricky one. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that hard, because it just makes the ball look faded when it's at the top of the screen. But you lose track of it when you've got that one on. Sorry, I've got to focus a little bit, because I did this hard one. So when it starts pewing like that, that's because it's hit the end. Now that, in DX-Ball it was more like a skull, but that shatter icon, that's instant death. You just lose a life and you have to start over with a new ball. Alright. It's a good thing I've got a bigger paddle, or I would be having a hard time with the speed that this one's going. Now again, it's not that this is the coziest game necessarily, but, ooh, I missed. But it's nostalgic, it's cutesy, it's casual, it's easy to get through, right? You can pick it up pretty quick, you can learn it, and, it's just a simple, easy, nostalgic game. Retro, for sure, but it's retro in a good way. Especially if you ever played a Brick Breaker back in the day, right? Because this one, while it was, remade to work on modern hardware, and to work with, modern 16:9 displays, that sort of thing, it has all the same mechanics that it had in the 90s. It really hasn't changed. Which is fun. I like a game that you can, just take into the modern era and you don't really have to change anything for it to be fun. Just want it to run well. Alright. I can't remember if there's invisible bricks on this one. There might be. We'll find out. So that's the best, is if you can get it to go up on top and then just bounce around itself, the ball doesn't speed up as much, whereas if you keep hitting it, it does. Now this will send you a whole bunch of bad things. Now, bad things, normally I avoid them, but if you're willing to pick some of them up, they're worth more points, and so it'll increase your score overall, which is fun. But I don't want to have a teeny tiny one. This one is my favorite, though. This is Nail. If I could have gotten a gun, it would have worked too, but Nail lets you go right through all the bricks, which, oh, so nice. And this is Grapple. So now I can catch the ball each time, which is super convenient. Just lets me kind of aim it where I want it to go. Split it in two. Now I got two of them. Don't want to catch that little paddle. That would be tricky. Uh-oh. There we go. I'm trying to group my balls together because otherwise they're a little hard to get. Ooh, that's not going to end well. Now, you can't have gun and grapple on this one. Back in the one in the 90s, you could actually have both. But this one you can't. But I also don't think in the 90s, I can't remember if the gun would go straight through with the nail power-up. Now, this one looks pretty simple. Looks like you could just shoot things over. But you have to remember a few things. First, those white bricks you have to hit multiple times. And second, I think there's invisible bricks like right here. Yeah. So you have to dig your way through a bunch of invisible bricks. Now, those gold bars, they will speed up your ball over time, which can make life very difficult. Ooh, but that's what I wanted. That's perfect. Ooh, this is even better. So this atomic fireball thing, it can go through the gold. It breaks the gold rather than bouncing off of the gold, which makes life way easier. It also explodes adjacent bricks on contact. So it basically makes every brick one of those shiny explosive bricks, right? Oh, I forgot there were still some invisible ones. Now this, if there's any invisible ones left, it'll reveal them, because it puts them in their last final state, which is very handy if you're hunting around trying to find the last hidden ones. Because it can be awful when the whole screen looks empty, and you just can't find any bricks, and it's because there's an invisible one somewhere. And each level has like a theme. They draw a little, interesting art pictures of the bricks, which is fun. They are a little stretched out in this remake because they made them 16 by 9 by just, extending each of the bricks basically. So the pixel art gets a little distorted, but it still looks good. You can get what they're going for usually. Though I didn't look at this one closely enough to know what it was. I think it was cake, maybe? I should have looked closer. But yeah, I put, oh man, hundreds of hours into this game as a kid. And it would run on anything, right? Like, it didn't matter what computer you had. You could always play DX Ball, which was a blast. DX Ball 2 was a little bit harder. This one's mostly like DX Ball 1, because DX Ball 2 had, like, crazy backgrounds and stuff, if I remember right. Like, very, Windows 95 animated backgrounds that were whirling around the screen. Very, very 90s. Whereas DX Ball 1 feels a little bit more 80s, just because it was, based so heavily off of Steve Wozniak's Brick Breaker. Was his Arkanoid? I can't remember. Oh, this one's kind of fun. So it makes your ball glow, but then, when you want to, you can, it's either click or right click. I think it's right click, and it'll shoot out a bunch of those that just shoot through and kill things. Kill all the bricks in their path, which is a great way to clear out a whole bunch at once, because it basically acts like the nail power-up, where it just goes straight through. Super convenient. Oh man, I'm not doing so good. There we go. And the soundtrack, of course, is fun. It's just retro MIDI soundtrack, which there's nothing wrong with. It's not that a nice modern soundtrack doesn't sound good, but nothing wrong with a MIDI one every now and then too. Oh, there we go. Whereas I think DX Ball 2, if I remember right, had a little bit more like modern music blended in that wasn't just using the MIDI track. I can't remember for sure. It's been a long time since I played those ones. But again, this Brickochet is, it has levels from the old DX Ball game, so I'm pretty sure it's made by the same guy, and he was just trying to rebrand. Which is interesting though, because DX Ball 2 is available on Steam as well. So this one, Brickochet I got on Steam for $2.99. Well, I probably bought it on sale, so I probably got it for like under $1. But point is, it's normally $2.99 on the store, which, you know, isn't too bad. Granted, you know, it's not a AAA game by any means, but it's priced appropriately, I think. It knows that it's just a little casual game from a bygone era, but that doesn't mean it's not fun. I was gonna go till I died, but so far I'm doing pretty good at not dying. I lost the one life, but I figured without me focusing too much I would probably die a bunch. So far just the once. And it was where you almost always die, which is sometimes you're not right in the corner and you think you are, and so you'll miss the ball. Now the other thing is, if you can aim it just right, you can actually hit the ball off of the red ends of your paddle, and that'll send it at the sharpest angle possible. But it's also dangerous because if you mess that one up, then you just miss the ball is all. It can get a little hard to aim though, so the closer you are to the center of the paddle, the more straight up and down it goes. Whereas the more towards the side of the paddle you are, the more angle it goes. And as your paddle gets bigger, it changes that calculus, so it can be a little hard to figure out. Ooh. Alright, well, we've only got 2 of the balls left, but still. 2 is better than 1. And every time you get a power-up, it gives you points. So even though I already had the larger balls, I got the power-up anyway, because it's worth points. And this, you know, like all the old games, it was all about the points. Everybody assumed you'd beat the game. So it was just, you know, how many points are you going to get along the way? Then you can have bragging rights, because you get more points than your friends. Alright, this might be more balls than I can handle, but we're just gonna see how many I can keep, huh? Alright. I'll give up the balls for the guns, because then I can just snipe the last bricks rather than having to aim it with the paddle. Alright. Let's keep going for a bit. And this is just one of those games where you can turn your brain off, you can play for hours on end, and if you die, you know, you just start over. I remember my friend and I, Jason, he and I would play this game on the same computer, right? So like we would just take turns. You would go until you die, and then he would go till he died. And he was a lot better at the game than I was. And so he would get these turns that would just go for, you know, many, many levels. And then I would make a mistake and I'd get a turn that was only, you know, a couple levels long. But those were the rules. That was the way we did it. It was interesting how you made do back in the day, right? Like I remember he and I also played Half-Life. But Half-Life, you say, is a single-player game. How did you both play Half-Life? Well, we wanted to play at the same time. So, one of us did the keyboard, and the other one did the mouse. And yes, that was just as confusing as it sounds. But, you know, we had a good time doing it. So one of us is shooting and steering, basically, and the other one's walking and jumping. It was wild. But, you know, we made it work. It was a way to get, you know, old computers to work with, you know, pseudo-multiplayer. Another one was Command and Conquer. So Jason had Command and Conquer, I didn't. And I also don't think my computer could play Command and Conquer, so he couldn't just lend it to me. And so I would go over to his house to, quote-unquote, play Command and Conquer. But what I was really doing, because again, I didn't want to go over to his house and just hijack his computer he was playing, right? But I would, like, advise, or I'd give him suggestions, you know, I'd be like, oh, we should, you know, put this sort of Tesla coil here, or things like that, right? You know, just a standard 90s way to make do with limited hardware. Oh man, the worst, though, was when we were playing Myst. We were stuck. We could not figure out where to go, and it's because we were playing on my computer. So we decided to start again on his computer. So we took, you know, the CD for Myst over to his computer. We started playing. We went to the same place because we thought, you know, maybe there's a glitch. That happens sometimes. And it was that my computer had such a dark graphics rendering for some reason. I don't know if it was the monitor or if it was the actual hardware that did the graphics rendering, but it was so dark that we couldn't see that there was a door. And then once we once we had his computer and we could see the door, then we were able to solve the part we'd been stuck on. But we'd been stuck on that for so long. Oh, the 90s. It was a simpler time, but in many ways, a much worse time. So while it's nice to relive a game from then, you know, it's not like I miss the 90s that much. I'm happy to live in the era that we live in, of remakes and graphics cards and 3D and all sorts of stuff. But when it comes to cozy games, retro games definitely always make my list. Alright, let's see if we can get this guy. One of these days I'll have to show you guys a game I got, well, it's not even a game, it's software I got on Steam called 3D Sen. And what it is it's a Nintendo emulator, but where they've built in a bunch of asset swaps to allow it to be 3D. So you can play, you know, Mario Brothers or Mario Brothers 3D or a whole bunch of games. Like it only has limited support, you can't do it with all the games. But you can play them in sort of 3D, right? It's a little bit more like 2.5D, where it's... sorry, I gotta focus for a second. That's confusing. So it's a little bit more like 2.5D, where, you know, because you're still playing a side-scroller game, but it renders each of the assets in 3D. So you can, oh, did I miss with all of them? So you can twist everything around, and then bricks each have thickness, and the sprites have thickness. And so it's really fascinating to see what they've done with each of those old games. I did, on my main channel, before I started this cozy channel, I did a few there. I think I did Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. I think I did Mario Brothers 3 and 1 maybe. I can't remember. But it's a fun little app that lets you relive those old games in a slightly different way. It's not drastically different, but it's fun. So I'll have to show that one later. Oh, there we go. There's my favorite power-up. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't need another one, so I'm not going to risk losing the ball. Oh, missed that power-up. I was hoping I could snatch it, but... Again, it's always worth not losing a ball rather than getting a power-up. There we go. And it's always good having two balls, because then you got a backup, right? See, like that guy, I lost him, but I was able to get the shot off first. To at least get more of that sun power thing. You know, I don't know what that one's called. Let's see. If we go in here, what was it? The sun power one. This one. No, that's warp. This one. Burst ball. Release brick-penetrating bullets in all directions. Burst ball. I wasn't sure what that one was called. I don't remember that one being in DX Ball 1. I think that's a new addition to Brickochet. It's hard to know, though, because DX Ball had so many versions. And so, like, you know, you'd go over to a friend's house, you'd start playing, and you're like, wait, the levels are different, right? And it was just that, you know, he would release a version, he'd change stuff, he'd tweak stuff, he'd add levels, he'd, you know, fix bugs, and he'd re-release it. That was common in the 90s. You really had to pay attention to what the version number was at the bottom of the game, because it would drastically affect the gameplay. Alright. Whereas now, I mean, that can be true now too, I guess. There's a lot of games that have game-breaking bugs on release day, and so they do drastically change from one round to the next, and sometimes they add, you know, entire chapters. So I guess that hasn't really changed. Sometimes I think things were unique to the 90s, and it turns out it's just was maybe more prevalent among the games that I personally saw, but is still prevalent today in a similar way. Alright. Getting close here. Again, I know, not high-impact gaming, but that's not what this game's about. This game, it's just about enjoying. You just want to turn your brain off, you want to relax, get ready for bed. It's not going to get you all hyped up, but it's not, you know, slow either. Sometimes you're not in the mood for, you know, a walking simulator or something too slow. You want something with a little action, a little arcade-like stuff, but still cozy nonetheless. And that's what this one will give you. Alright, I think we should probably call it here. This is level 13. I'm just going to kill this one. And there's a 0th ball, basically, right? It's that you have 0 balls in reserve. And you can get level ups. You can also, so you can get 1-ups and you can get warps to other levels. And if you get all the way to the end, you can level up. Now, sadly, this version on Steam doesn't save your high scores. I had the top score on everything, but you know, I uninstalled and reinstalled the game, and apparently that wipes it out. And there's different sets that you can launch. You can also set hard and easy. I think hard, it changes the speed, and it also changes the... Oh, I thought it changed the number of paddles you got, but maybe not. See, I think it starts out just a little faster is all. So that's that set. And then there's set 3. Let's go easy just to see what the difference is. Silver is the name of this one, I think, right? Whoops, I missed. I didn't realize there was an invisible one there. But again, it's just different level packs, right? And then once you've beaten them, you can actually go back and you can do a level select. So if you select level 1, level select, you could start here on 13 where we ended, right? Now you're not going to unlock all the achievements because there's achievements for playing them all in a row. But it's a good way to pick up where you left off, basically. It's like a save state, but then when I load into this one, you'll notice now I have all my paddles back, whereas before I had lost a life, so I didn't have all my paddles. So this is a fun one. I like it. If you're in the mood for something a little retro, then check out Brickochet. Again, it's not too expensive. It's about $3 on Steam, which I think is more than fair given what it is, right? It's just a little arcade game from the 90s that's been revived. But I think it's worth a nice, cozy revisit, so check this one out. But if it isn't your favorite, come on back, like and subscribe, because I find more cozy games than anybody. Join me on this adventure, and I'm sure I'm going to find some stuff you love. And check out these great videos linked here, because you might like those ones. Alright, catch you in the next one. Cheers.